give kind of an intro into keto. As many of my friends and family know, I've been following a keto diet since July, and it is now December 29th-ish or late December. And I have so far lost about 60 pounds, and I'm definitely still on this keto journey. I've been getting a lot of questions about, well, what is keto? Just gonna give a little intro into keto, and just to kind of give you some good information that I was able to kind of pull out of all the different research that I've done. And I think that will help those of you that are interested in maybe pursuing the keto diet. Keto is short for the term ketogenic, and it is a low-carb, high-fat or high healthy fat way of eating that switches your body's metabolic processing from processing or getting energy from glucose or sugar to actually getting its energy source from fat and ketone bodies. For me in particular have been weight loss, improved cognitive functioning, improved focus, better sleep overall. I've always had kind of struggles with almost like anxious sleep. I'm up and down, and as many of us teachers know, the lists that never stop during the night. But I've definitely been able to get better sleep because of my ketogenic eating. Good at improving or lowering blood glucose and improving insulin sensitivity. For quite a few people, they have come to this diet in search of inflammation and pain relief. And I used to get pretty painful, almost like carpal tunnel. It's definitely not that extreme, but pain through my hands and wrists and upper arms. And since going keto, I have not experienced that. Definitely another benefit of the ketogenic diet is hormone balancing. I do not have PCOS, but I know a lot of people have gotten benefit from keto in regards to their PCOS, but I have experienced more regular periods, lighter and less painful periods while being on keto, and that was evident from like the first month. And another huge daily impact and benefit of keto is less hunger. Joe Rogan had described, after he had been eating ketogenically, the idea of the hunger being more of kind of like a whisper, or being in the next room instead of like screaming at you when you're hungry, and you're less hungry almost all the time. So definitely a huge benefit of keto. Macros, it's short for macronutrients, which are the big three: fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Ketosis, if you hear somebody being in ketosis or being in a state of ketosis, that is referring to the state of when your body produces ketone body. You might also hear people talking about being either fat adapted or keto adapted, and that means that your body has gone through enough time on this low carbohydrate, high fat way of eating that it has then adapted and switched that metabolic functioning to fat burning instead of sugar burn. RFL, a rocket fuel latte, that is a fatty coffee, and I'll probably do a separate video on how I do my rocket fuel lattes, and I don't actually call them that, I just call them my coffee. But you'll see people refer to it with that acronym RFL. That's what it is. Net carbs. So when you start kind of trying to figure out what you want to eat, what will work for your body, some people actually figure net carbs, like have this total of carbohydrates that they're kind of allotting for themselves for the day. Net carbs refers to you get your total number of carbohydrates and you subtract away fiber. Some people even subtract away sugar, alcohol. But it just depends on which kind of version, what you like best, net carbs versus total carb. And the last one I have on my keto terms list for this intro into keto is NSV. Those are non-scale victories. So when that scale's not moving, and another term, it would be a stall. That's when you've been still sticking to your macros and you're doing really well, but you're seeing that you're not actually losing weight. The keto community kind of calls that a stall. But non-scale victories help you kind of focus on other things, because a lot of people experience inches being lost while weight being the same. Another non-scale victory example would be like fitting into a particular size of jeans. So there's actually a bunch of different philosophies that people who follow keto kind of break off into. So some people are what they refer to as strict keto. These are people who track their macros all the time, every day, everything they put in their mouth, they track it, and they fit their macros, they follow their macros to the T. There are people more like myself that the community calls lazy keto. Now, it's still hard work. I don't know if I really like the term lazy, but lazy keto refers to people who do not track their macros. Typically, we are people who just make sure that we're in that realm of carbohydrate restriction. I definitely started off, and I would recommend for most people to start off strict keto, so you can kind of get a good idea of the different types of foods and what their ratios are, their macro ratios are, and then go from there. Once you understand what you like and how much your daily is looking, your daily calorie count, your daily macro counts, then you can go more lazy keto, because then you're kind of used to it. So here's some kind of basic breakdowns of some of those different philosophies or different versions of keto. So some people are what they refer to as strict keto. These are people who track their macros all the time, every day, everything they put in their mouth, they track it, and they fit their macros, they follow their macros to the T. There are people more like myself that the community calls lazy keto. Now, it's still hard work. I don't know if I really like the term lazy, but lazy keto refers to people who do not track their macros. Typically, we are people who just make sure that we're in that realm of carbohydrate restriction. I definitely started off, and I would recommend for most people to start off strict keto, so you can kind of get a good idea of the different types of foods and what their ratios are, their macro ratios are, and then go from there. Once you understand what you like and how much your daily is looking, your daily calorie count, your daily macro counts, then you can go more lazy keto, because then you're kind of used to it. There's also this term of IIFMM, if it fits my macros. So these people have more of, they're okay with more processed foods, they're okay with more maybe chemicals and things like that. They're just a little bit more lenient on their intake. They're not necessarily all whole foods. It's just as long as it fits my macros, I'm good. And then there's cyclical keto. So people who cycle their ratios. On certain days, they're going to have a higher carb count. On certain days, they're going to have a higher protein count. And they cycle through these different ratios. Some do it on a weekly basis, so they break up their week and do a different cycle throughout that 1 week. Or some people do more of a month cyclical. Within those realms, there are some major differences as far as the amount of fat that different people decide is the right level. I say right and I quote it because I really have come to the belief that everybody is so different. So you follow what kind of more instinctually and more just when you feel good, you found your spot. You found what you need to follow. But clinical keto is actually going back to when, I think it was like the 1920s or so, when doctors were studying the effects of fasting on epilepsy or epileptic patients, and they then shifted over to this particular diet, and they realized that, oh, well, when we restrict their carbohydrates and up their fats, that their body's metabolic system mirrored that of a fasting individual. And the reasons why fasting was good was that in epilepsy, patients have much improved symptoms or many less seizures when fasted, and they saw the same results when they followed this ketogenic diet. And this clinical keto is very high fat. It's a dietary protocol for those who are using keto for intense therapy. So like I said, epilepsy, cancer, Alzheimer's, and there's a longer list that's out there. But basically that version of keto is all the way up to 90% fat, around 8% protein, 2% carbs. Whereas most people who follow it, maybe for other improvements in their health, but not quite to those extremes, those extreme ailments or diseases, most people fluctuate somewhere in the realm of a calorie ratio or percentage of calories, of 65% of their calories coming from fat, 30% of their calories coming from protein, and about 5% coming from carbs. And again, within different groups, some are back a higher fat content, some back a higher protein content. So there is that fluctuation. Just don't get too bogged down in it. It can be a little overwhelming because it feels like you never get an answer. That's because nobody else is you. So you just start kind of doing your thing and figuring it out. That's what I did. Still figuring stuff out. So it's fun. It's a journey.